this demonstration today is just a part of the enormous reaction of people worldwide who are expressing outrage following the atrocity committed by the Israeli military a week ago. The Israeli regime has treated Palestinians in Gaza barbarically. The invasion 18 months ago caused massive death and destruction, and Gazans are living in dire poverty and mostly without employment. And the encirclement of this thin strip of land that is Gaza and the blockade of goods by the Israeli military has reduced the area to effectively a starved prison camp. There have been regular assassinations of Palestinians by Israeli forces throughout the occupied territories, of Palestinians in the militias, but also of politicians and civilians in the Palestinian territories. And now these killings on the aid flotilla have added a further dimension to that list of horror. This is the gunning down of people who simply want to deliver much needed aid to the Gazans, including construction materials, simply so that they can rebuild their homes that have been destroyed by Israeli bulldozers. As well as strongly condemning these killings, pressure needs to be stepped up internationally now for an end to the blockade of Gaza. And this needs to be done through a programme of demonstrations and also through urgent discussions in trade union movements internationally on how workers can come to the aid of ordinary people in Gaza and the West Bank. But also how they can come to the aid of workers in Israel, both Jewish and Palestinian workers, who are doing vital work inside Israel in demonstrating and campaigning against the repressive military blockade and occupation of the Palestinian areas. Members of the Committee for a Workers' International, the CWI, in Israel have been courageously participating in demonstrations over the last few days against the vicious attack on the aid convoy, demonstrations in the West Bank and in Tel Aviv and other areas, and they've used a number of slogans in their protests, such as they've said, "To protest is not terrorism, end the siege of Gaza, security is not built on demonstrators' bodies, generals and ministers, stop the killing of demonstrators, the racist government is the security threat, end the use of soldiers against civilians, invest in education, not siege and occupation." And importantly, regarding how the Israeli government reacts in the aftermath of this atrocity, they've been calling for there not to be a cover-up of what has actually happened on this flotilla, this aid flotilla to Gaza. The Socialist Party in England and Wales and the CWI believes that we can't rely on the United Nations, which is effectively a club of the world capitalist powers, nor can we rely on any of the capitalist governments of the world to build the pressure that is needed against the actions of the Israeli government.
Smash the wall! 1, 2, 3, 4! Break the siege! Smash the wall! 1, 2, 3, 4! Break the siege! Smash the wall!
We support the building of mass struggle by the Palestinians themselves for an end to the occupation and for their genuine national liberation. We support the building too of a new mass workers' party in Israel, as many Israeli families are struggling to live below the poverty line, and Israeli workers themselves have regularly had to resort to struggles to defend their living standards. And with 2/3 of Israeli workers having consistently in polls consistently supported the idea of the formation of a Palestinian state, then it's clear that a workers' party can be built in Israel that promotes the idea of two socialist states, a Palestinian state and an Israeli state, working side by side in mutual cooperation.
End the siege of Gaza! End the siege now! End the siege of Gaza! End the siege now!
Because ongoing conflict is not, of course, in the interests of workers on either side of the national divide, but it's an inevitable byproduct of the continued existence of capitalism, with the focus of the capitalist ruling classes on prestige, on power and on profit. But ordinary people need a completely different type of society, and they need it very urgently in the Middle East, as the situation of the Palestinians shows. They need socialist societies with democratically, publicly owned and run economies to raise living standards for everyone, and where freedom of movement can be guaranteed for all, as well as full and equal rights for national minorities. That would open a completely different future for the peoples of that region.
And it gives me great pleasure to introduce to the General Council of the TUC, Sally Hunt, General Secretary of the UCU.
I'm here for 58 trade unions.